Ladies and gentlemen, the NS Overhaul is here. Well, it's sort of here. It's now on the public test server for everyone to get their hands on, and with it, we have a lot of stuff to go over, whether it be directly or indirectly related to the NS Overhaul itself. So much so that we are really going to have to do this over multiple videos, so get strapped in. It's time we started taking a look at Planetside 2's next major game update. G'day there once again viewers, this is your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today guys, we're going to be testing the new lineup of infantry weapons coming to the Nanite Systems operatives. Alright, so a couple of pieces of housekeeping before we go into everything. First things first, everything you're going to see here should be taken with a grain of salt. Stats, designs, and well, a whole lot of things can change before what we preview here today comes to the live server. I'll also say that while yes, all of the footage you're going to see today when it comes to the new gear comes from the VR training room, I did take place in a closed testing group for the NS Overhaul where a lot of my attention was focused on testing the feel of the weaponry. I don't have any footage from that test in particular, but just know that I have had some exposure to the weaponry here beyond shooting test dummies, and is also why I was able to get this video out so soon. I've had access to this gear for quite a bit. Anyway, onto the weaponry itself. In this build of the test, the NSO armory is being expanded with 3 new weapons in the following categories: LMGs, assault rifles, carbines, SMGs, snipers, shotguns, pistols, scout rifles, and rocket launchers, which leaves us with a grand total of 29 new weapons to run with for the time being. This is 6 shy of the 35 that Rel alluded to in his last dev post, but take into consideration the yet-to-be-released max weaponry for the Defector and the new directive weapons that are coming that we don't have access to yet, and we're going to be getting pretty close to that number anyway. Now, with the sheer amount of weaponry that we do have access to here, we simply aren't going to be able to go into every weapon in a great amount of reviewing-like detail, but I do want to start off by taking a look at the new default automatic weapons here that are class-specific, and I want you guys to take note of the stats and see if there's any consistencies or a unique trait, if anything, that all of these default weapons share. Firstly, for the LMG, the default LMG is the SMG 100, a 714 rounds per minute fire rate, 143 to 112 damage LMG with an 80 round magazine and a fairly lengthy reload time, but an accurate recoil pattern that makes the weapon fairly easy to control and score accurate assaulting fire with. The carbine is the CB100, once again a 714 rounds per minute fire rate with a 143 to 112 damage profile. It's a carbine with a snappy reload speed and a small 25 round magazine size, all the while once again sporting some pretty nifty recoil kick to control. The AR of choice here is the AR100, which is sporting a 667 rounds per minute fire rate, a 143 to 112 damage profile with a snappy 1.8 second reload speed to boot, and a 28 round magazine size. The recoil on this thing is... look, there's no other way to put it. This thing simply doesn't kick. It's accurate as all hell. You will struggle to make this thing feel like it has recoil in the first place. Okay. So, did you guys notice anything that was common across all of the weapons that was kind of special about them? I'll give you a hint. It relates to the damage profile. Now yeah, 143 to 112 damage profile isn't what you would call special by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, it's almost painfully average in this game. But no, it's the ranges in which the damage operates on. The maximum damage on all of these weapons that we've just mentioned begins to drop off at the 15 meter mark as opposed to the usual 10 meter mark, which effectively means that these weapons get the benefit of soft point ammunition directly built into the stats of the weapon without needing the attachment. And just for those wondering, yep, you can choose to take soft point ammunition as an attachment on a lot of these weapons as well, further extending the maximum damage drop-off range to a whopping 20 meters. And I'll just go ahead and save you guys the anticipation now. This is a common trait on all of the assault rifles, light machine guns, and carbines that are coming in this NSO Overhaul. Unfortunately, this doesn't apply to the SMGs, the sniper rifles, and scout rifles and stuff like that, but to have this across all LMGs, carbines, and assault rifles is a pretty nifty trait. The trade-off? Well, the weapons do seem to sport slower rate of fires by comparison to their faction counterparts. So if you look at the T9 Carve for the TR, in comparison to the XMG 100, which is a fair comparison because they share the same damage model. The T9 Carve sports the 750 rounds per minute fire rate, whereas the XMG only sports the 714. But when you combine the XMG 100's accuracy, that can only really be described as precision you would find in a microprocessor assembly line, we have the overall design of the NSO weaponry kind of figured out. Better damage fall-off ranges at the cost of some rate of fire and a very accurate profile overall. The end goal? The weapons have the capacity to be accurate powerhouses, but you need to bring the accuracy to the table to make them work. Make up for the lacking rate of fire by simply being one very accurate and precise boy. Let's skim over the rest of the LMGs, carbines, and assault rifles really quickly to see what else we have to play with here. As far as the LMGs are concerned, the XMG 155 is a large capacity variant of the XMG 100 that trades a little extra rate of fire for an upgrade in magazine size and damage model, moving more in line with the NSX Naginata damage model. It can also run extended magazines to feed 150 rounds through the weapon uninterrupted. This is going to be the key LMG for crowd control for the NSOs. The XMG 200 is the brute force approach and is the first 167 damage model LMG the NSOs are going to have access to. It sports a 75 round magazine, which gives it a lot of kill potential, kind of on par with the flare, just a pretty serious hit to the rate of fire when compared against other 167 damage model weapons out there, so again, be ready to make your shots count here. As for our carbines, the CB200, which similarly to the XMG200 is the heavy-hitting big brother to the CB100, heavy-hitting rounds at the cost of rate of fire. The observant of you will start picking up on the naming convention that these weapons follow. And then we've got the CBX75, which is simple. If you want to spit lead fast, here's your contender, rocking the infamous 143 800 rounds per minute profile. This is going to be the key pick for the more aggressive operatives amongst you all. And I'm not going to lie, this is probably my favorite carbine of the bunch thus far. As far as the assault rifles are concerned, we have the AR-101, which fits a similar build to the XMG-155 in the AR world. It takes the damage model and tones it up slightly at the cost of rate of fire, but does so all the while maintaining incredible accuracy and a brilliant reload time. This thing is really snappy to use and is going to be a lot of fun, I think, on the field. And then we have the AR-N203. Now, this is the NS operative's answer to a 3-round burst fire rifle, only with a small twist. You see, guys, all other burst fire weapons in the game require you to tap the trigger to keep firing the weapon after every burst. The AR-N203 does not. If you hold down the trigger, it just keeps on bursting. And this is not only a feature, it also appears to be consistent with other burst fire weapons in the NS Overhaul. More on that later, but an interesting trait that we haven't seen yet. Now, the NS operatives are also getting a new suite of sniper rifles to run with, including a new default, so we'll go over those guys next, even if they seem to follow pretty similar archetypes to what other factions have already, and it's also worth noting that none of the weapons that we talk about from here on out follow that unique trait of having the extended maximum damage drop-off distances. For snipers, we've got the SR100, which is the new default, which seems to fit into the same design as the existing defaults for the TR and the VS, or in other words, the 99 SV and the VA39 Spectre respectively. It's a semi-automatic sniper rifle capable of two-shotting with headshots, but it also doesn't seem to have the ability to mount a ballistics computer, which is a bit disturbing. You know, the thing that made the 99 SV and the VA39 Spectre half decent was the addition of that ballistics computer to get rid of scope sway, so kind of hoping that does get added eventually. Next up, the SR-L75, which is a lightweight equivalent of the SR-100 default, sporting slightly more versatility in CQC and the option to equip closer range optics by comparison. It is also hard to tell, and I can't confirm it at this stage, but it might even sport a 0.75 times aiming down sights movement multiplier, which will make it impressive in CQC if that is true, but again, I can't confirm that right now. The SR-150 is a longer range variant of the 100 and actually sports a more powerful stopping power that makes it capable of two-shotting infiltrators within 50 meters, even in the body. So that's going to be a pretty interesting addition to the armory, and I think that's actually pretty unique. We haven't seen a rifle that's that powerful in semi-automatic mode yet. So again, potentially interesting to run with. So those are all the class-specific weapon categories, but now we find ourselves moving towards the multi-class weapon categories, the SMGs, scout rifles, and shotguns, and I want to start off with the more CQC-oriented categories first, because there is admittingly some interesting stuff happening here. We'll start off with SMGs, and the NS operatives aren't messing around here. The PMG 100 is an SMG that, well, only ties in the game for the title of the SMG with the fastest rate of fire. This thing sports 896 rounds per minute fire rate, and it also sports a 40 round magazine with a 1.85 second reload time. This thing blitzes through ammo like nobody's business, but is also quick to get straight back into the fight when you need it most. This is going to be an incredibly strong competitor, I feel, but I feel as though the PMG 200 is going to have something to say about that. Now, it trades a touch of that rate of fire for a step up in maximum damage, which again, following the weapon naming archetypes, makes sense. This thing also only has a 22 round magazine size. But that is reloaded in a whopping 1.65 seconds if you can keep at least one round in the chamber. And if you do empty the weapon, you only have to go through a 1.95 second reload. That is easily one of the fastest reload cycles in the game across the board, no questions asked. And that's going to make this a true guerrilla warfare style weapon. It's going to admittingly make it feel very close to how the AF4 Cyclone feels on the NC, which means I'm very excited to try this weapon out. Now, the PMG 3XB is the first 3-round burst SMG to make its way to the game. It's certainly got a niche feel to it that's gonna simply take a bit more time to get used to, I feel, but in saying that, it does follow the same type of unique burst fire behavior that the AR N203 sports, where holding down the trigger keeps rounds coming. Just something worth considering, and I look forward to seeing how this weapon behaves on the battlefield as well. Moving on to shotguns, we have our basic 3 archetypes that follow pretty similar designs to other factions with one exception. We have the SG-100, which follows the accurate spread archetype and is the default shotgun available. We have the SG-A25, which is your auto equivalent, nothing too special happening here either. But then we have the HSG-400. Now this is effectively the NS operative's answer to a pump action shotgun, only it's not a pump action. The weapon can one-shot targets if your shot is accurate enough, but it does not have a pump action to reload it. Now, while the refire time on the weapon is so slow that it might as well have that pump action, it does have a slightly faster refire time versus its faction counterparts. That does give it a slightly faster rate of fire. It's also the first heavy shotgun in the game that is magazine fed, not tube fed, which also means that this is going to be the first heavy shotgun in the game that really doesn't punish you for emptying the magazine as much as the other heavy pump action shotguns do. So we're going to see some very interesting plays come out of the woodworks here with this thing. As far as the scout rifles are concerned, there's nothing really too out of the ordinary here to be concerned about. The BAR 100 takes after the battle rifles like the Warden, AMR 66, and the Eidolon VE 33. The BAR 200 takes after the heavy-hitting scout rifles in the form of the AF6 Shadow, HSR-1, and the NIX VX-33, which is essentially a heavier-hitting variant designed for long-range combat. And then we have the BAR A75, which is a fully automatic variant designed for mid-range dominance while having the ability to get into a CQC scrap should it need to do so. Oh, and of course, we have ourselves some pistols to go over as well. You have the U100 lastly, which is the new default pistol available to the NSO arsenal, sporting a modest damage model and a magazine size with a pretty respectable refire time. For those wondering, this is basically a run-of-the-mill pistol that is going to be pretty easy to pick up and run with, you know, an old reliable if you will. The U150 Recoil sports a slightly heftier damage model with what can only be described as an elusively large magazine size for a pistol, so this is going to be a really trusted companion in the hands of many operatives, I feel. And then, just because the NS operatives felt as though they needed to cram as much damage as humanly possible into a pistol that's magazine fed, we have the U200 Harbinger. At least they made the name sound as terrifying as possible. This thing sports a damage model that would even make the LA8 Rebel on the NC blush, and it's the ultimate pick for anyone who wants to, you know, do something that is really just the embodiment of a middle finger to anyone who gets a little too close. While it doesn't sport as much damage as the famed NS44 Commissioner or even the NS357 Underboss, it does sport a larger magazine size, so there's going to be a lot of fun for crowd control here, and it still can two-shot headshot enemies with the right amount of accuracy, so it's going to be, I feel, a really strong contender as well. And yes, we've also got new rocket launchers, but as far as I can tell, there's nothing really special happening here either. They just appear to be a new dumbfire, a new ground-to-air, and a new ground-to-ground lock-on launcher. Pretty much as simple as the other 3 factions' equivalent launchers are as well. But whew, guys, that is a lot of weaponry all in one video. I tell you what, I'm going to be reviewing weapons for a damn long time here. The LMGs, the SMGs, the ARs, the carbines, they're all unique enough for me to review. Probably the sniper rifles as well, so I'm going to be a busy boy, and you guys are going to be able to see all of that come to the channel over time. So if you're interested in those weapon reviews for the new NSO arsenal, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way to supporting the channel, guys. Hit like if you enjoyed the video, dislike if you didn't, and let me know why in the comment section down below. But also feel free to join me on my Twitch channel. Links in the description down below. It'd be great to hang out with you guys in the long run there as well. Once again, guys, it's been a pleasure. Take care, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace out, guys. Have a good one.